going to do it. So I said, Lord, what am I going to do? He said, you're going to run. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I called another candidate who had ran before. I said, you're going to have to jump in the race. He says, I'm not going to do it. I said, we have to unite the party. This is never going to happen. So I went up, called the next girl. I said, hey, you got to unite the party so it'll never happen. I'm sitting in my car, 100 degrees, and I was just sweating and crying. I said, Lord, what am I going to do? He said, you're going to unite the party and you're going to run. A week later, I said, put the papers, got the little 20 signatures that I need, 25 plus, whatever, and turned it in the next day, and then I went back to work. So around in August, I was contacted by a team. They're like, hey, you got to get out there and start campaigning. I go, yeah, what do I do? Well, anyway, the story goes on. Then we had a Zoom call, and all of a sudden, all these people showed up on the Zoom call. I was like, whoa, where am I? So anyway, it turned out there was like 15 of us that were going that happened to be conservative. So the one guy asked, he said, well, if any one of you know that one's rising to the top, and any one of you want to, bounce out, basically. And I was shocked to see, there's only 3 openings, I was shocked to see I was the only one that raised my hand. It made common sense to me. And then I said, well, I think it's only about, there's only 3 seats, we don't want to do the city council, da-da-da-da. Anyway, they were all like, no, we're the better pick. That was great. So moving on, I was already in the race. No one knew how to pull or anything like that, so we were all just in it. I didn't really start campaigning until about September, 25 days. So I just prayed again. I said, Lord, if I get 150 votes, I have no idea why you want me to run, but I'm here, I'm going to finish the race. And I said, and I feel victorious. If I got 150 people, that'd be great. Somebody believed in me. Then the next week I said, well, if it was 1,500, I'd really feel victorious. So then I thought, Lord, that's just amazing. I have no idea why you chose me, but okay. So by the end of it, I ended up nearly 12,000 votes. 25 days of campaign, 12,000 votes. Still didn't know what it was, but I felt victorious. Anyway, so January rolled around, and of course the lockdowns came, and I was on this little Zoom call again. And it was a committee group that talked and talked and talked. Well, when I heard talking, I need action. So I kept telling, okay, what are we going to do here? And okay, what about this? If there's this problem, what can we do? Well, Simon, what do we do? I said, you know what? Let's just unite the party. I'll get back to you in 3 days, and we're going to all meet in person. He goes, you can't when you're pandemic. I said, watch me. So then, 3 days later, I got back to him. There was a church that offered to let me have a room that was half the size. It fit 35 people. First meeting showed up, it was 45. The next meeting was 80. The next one was 150. The next one was 250, then 300. I looked out, to be honest, about in June, July, and I said, I'm not running again. I'm going to place candidates into political seats. And I said, I'm going to place 1,500 of me. I'm not going to run. I want these people to get into office. So then I became a PAC, a state PAC. And then in November, I became a super PAC. So not even a year yet, I'm now working with over 150 candidates. I've endorsed at least a minimum of 60. I've endorsed Joey Gilbert in Nevada. Carrie Lake reached out to me in Arizona. I also endorsed her. I've endorsed Ralph Revamp in Michigan. I've endorsed 2 candidates in Florida, 1 in New Jersey, and the list keeps going. And of course, a slew of them here in California. God first, I'm America first, pro-life. I'm a constitutionalist, first and second. I got 2 best friends, Smith and Wesson. So I'm a so I just want to let you know, the real reason why I choose is the fundamental purpose of getting our candidates elected. In my 25 days of running, I could not believe what I saw. I saw the division. I saw the lack of support. I saw a lack of leadership. And these candidates are sacrificing everything, their financial status, their family time, their personal life, their privacy, and there's no support. And then you look over here to the opposing team, and they're being sought out years before for these positions. You want to know why? When you look up and you see the school board all filled with leftists, because they were already working into those positions 5-6 years before. True story. We all know how AOC got in, right? She was serving a drink with somebody, like, yeah, you be cool. She's like, cool. So the same thing happened to one of the candidates that I'm actually endorsing here. This happened in 2012. They said, you look great for politics. He goes, no, it's not my avenue. He said, yeah, but you'd be great. He said, well, I can't really have a you and I. We'll make that go away. But the point of it is they have support early on, and we have funding. We had a guy that another one I just endorsed, he got from LA, and I believe he was maybe even the president of one of the Republican committees. He stepped out to run for maybe one of the positions, I'll just say a state assembly position, and he was doing quite well. Democrats threw an absolute unknown, and threw $750,000 into that campaign. Okay? But then you hear on our side, oh, we're not well known, it's not going to work. We have to get past that. We need to go back to the basics. I believe it. I believe in old school. If they have big money, we can still beat it. Now, I'm going to go back into something just a little bit more. Am I running out of time? Okay. Let me just go back here. In 2020, and not trying to throw daggers at anybody, 2020 RNC raised 112 million. They donated 1.5 million to candidates. I don't know which one. 86%, we don't know where it went. In 2021, the California GOP raised actually that's 2020 as well, raised 4.5 million, and they gave $15,000 to committees. So we where we don't have the support. Perfect world, and you can go on my website and look at it. Payment for Freedom is born here now for that leadership role. We need to take care of our candidates. Perfect world, we had acquired the 112 million. 70% would have already went to our candidates. That's 79.4 million. If we acquired the 4.5 million, 3.3 million would have went to our candidates. So in lieu of that, right now, what I'm doing is I'm writing the round games. I get out there and I, talk to the candidates when I can. Personally, I've done as much as I possibly can, but I'm here to tell you that our candidates have to have support because there's a lack of support right now. Until PFS becomes more known and what I actually am doing and what my team is doing, this is what I'm willing to do. God told me to get out there and work and get out there and work hard, and that's all I'm here to do. I was born to serve. I'm born to, do what's right, and that's exactly what I'm here to do. Take my state back and take this country back, and ain't nobody can stop me. So wherever I saw it was broken, I'm going to fix it. When I started my staffing company, I saw the holes there too. I saw just the condescending views, the facade of things. I'm real. I love people innately. I want to see the best in people, and I want to see them thrive. There's not one candidate that I'm representing that will ever tell you they never heard from me. There's not one candidate that will tell you, no, she's not cool or anything like that. I'm always there for my candidate. Is that right, Candace? Okay, is that right for you? You know I'm putting you on the spot now. So I just want to let you know, please, get behind candidates. Make sure you are supporting them. Look up pffpac.com. Please look at the endorsements I've already done. We're working very hard. I want our state back. Look at these great people up here. You know I'm going to be supporting y'all. All right. So if you have any questions, again, I'll be here for minutes, but again, go to the website. And I'm so proud to bring up, if you don't mind, I can bring up my first candidate. I think I'm going to go to the lieutenant governor, which is David Hilbert. And he's, you guys, Reagan was the president of SAG, and this gentleman actually ran for president of SAG as well. He comes from the acting industry, aviation, military background, and he also ran for governor in the recall. Very knowledgeable. These guys are amazing men, and I'm so proud of our men standing out and running for office and fighting to take our state back as well. I think I can go off. I think I feel to be quiet now. So I'm going to bring up David Hilbert.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Hilbert. I've been in the acting industry since 1998. I've been with aviation since the late 70s. I've watched our state decline to the point of ridiculousness that it is now. A lot of people don't know what the Constitution is in the state of California. I actually ask everyone on to read it. You have the right to acquire and retain your wealth. That is not happening in California. You have the right to raise your children the way you wish. Not with the schools, not with the bureaucrats in office that are basically taking your rights away. They should administer to California, not the citizens of California. As lieutenant governor, I'll be ahead of the many boards and committees that are within our own legislature. In order to clean up the state, we have to clean up the laws that the governor will pass. Lately, our people are just pencil whipping, which is the worst thing we can do in aviation. And they're doing it to us up in Sacramento. So I'm just a staunch constitutionalist. I believe in our own God-given rights to do the best that we can in our lives with zero interference from government, because they're supposed to be chasing the criminals. They're supposed to be chasing those that are not able to take care of themselves, and not the regular citizens. I have so much history of California in my head that I've been actually researching the Assembly bills and the Senate bills that are coming out of Sacramento. And for the past 15 years, it's all been scorched earth against the citizens. Every crisis that you have here, the high gas prices, the homeless problem, the housing problem, the cost of living problem, everything was created by our own legislature and passed by our government. I have a friend that left California 2 years ago. Business is in the aviation turbine engines, a very specialized shop. When he left California for Arizona, he had a 41% profit margin. He hired 5 new employees, expanded the shop, and he's now currently going to hire 5 more employees. That business should be still in California, along with a lot of other businesses, because that's where our tax base is. And the gasoline tax, you have 50 cents on the refinery and $1.25 at the pump. You make that math and wonder why our gas prices are so high. And that boils down from the very bottom of the farmer who uses fuel, uses petrochemicals for fertilizer, and all the way up the chain of commerce. So we're getting tax upon tax upon tax upon tax upon tax just for our basic necessities. And during the recall, I was the only candidate that was actually calling for the arrest of Gavin Newsom. And that being said, the governor's job is to enforce law and support the Constitution of the United States and that of California. The lieutenant governor takes care of the colleges, the boards, the impeachments that need to come. We're going to cut all our drilling, get rid of our petrochemicals. Guess what? That's the lieutenant governor's job, not his. And I'm going to make sure that our government follows the Constitution. Because that's where our manual is for making this aircraft fly right. I thank you.
As David Hilbert, Lieutenant Governor candidate, I think he'll be an amazing one. I don't believe that there's anyone else running except for the incumbent, so I just want to make that note. And then we now have Daniel Work right here running for governor.
Actually, I want to make a correction to that too. David, I also call for the same thing when it comes to Gavin Newsom. Let me just borrow that stool real quick. David, can you give me that stool real quick? So, quick note, a little bit about me is I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a small business owner, and I'm a veteran. But before I get into that, my wife, she doesn't like it when I tell jokes, so I won't because she's not very good at it. But she does want me to let everybody know in this room that I am an amazing husband. She can't believe it, but I just want to let you know that. Also, too, I just got an announcement today from my wife that I am going to be a father of 3 now. Why am I running? I'm running because this is not the country I fought for. I didn't fight for communism, socialism, Marxism, or any other isms. That's all garbage. I don't care for that. I changed my slogan from "Start the government, feed the people" to "I'm here to defend you because the truth defends." So if you don't like what I'm going to say, there's the door. I'm tired of being politically correct. I'm not politically correct. I'm rough around the edges and grass. That's me. And one of the things that opened my eyes up is when I first ran for Congress. When I first ran for Congress, I've been at this now for 3 years, since March of 2019. So it's been 3 years now. I have not stopped running on my own dime. I do not want your money. I know how hard you work for it. But I started getting approached by super PACs and lobbyists and technocrats, and I didn't quite understand that when I was getting all of this garbage in the mail, it was in the contract that said, if we endorse you, you have to take our money. And then there were all these United States codes. I didn't quite understand. It was written differently, whether it was a realtor PAC, it was a lobbyist, a technocrat, didn't matter. They were all slightly different. And I never understood what that meant and how important that was. And that's what made me dig into the laws of the Constitution and the state constitution. Most people don't even know that we have a California state constitution. I've never read it before. And I never understood, why is it so important? And then I realized, if I sign that contract, then I'm obligated to that contract. But can I just get out of it? And the answer is no. You cannot just get out of that contract. Why? Well, because if you look at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, I'll paraphrase, it says that the states cannot come up with a law or to prevent the fulfillment or obligation of a contract. So that means the right to a contract is not limited. So that means that it's irrelevant if that contract is unconstitutional. Your courts are going to take the Constitution and throw it out. You don't have access to it. So if I make an agreement with some sort of pact with this contract and I take their money, then I'm beholden to the contract, irrelevant if it goes completely against your sovereignty. And so now I kind of understood, wait, is this really where it lies? That is where the core problem lies with everything that's wrong in our state and everything wrong with our country, that everything went back to the 1960s, that we became incorporated. Which then means I realized that almost every single bill, SB, AB bill, is tied to these corporations. It's the corporatists that come up with these model contracts that they hand over to your legislative body, and then it's a plug and play. And now they're beholden to those corporatists, which means that's why these bills don't really support you. They don't support your endeavors. They don't support your sovereignty, and they most certainly abridge and abrogate the supreme laws of the land, which most people don't know this. This is why they're getting away with it. This is why it's falling on deaf ears. Because technically, under the contract, you're not a sovereign. You're a second-class citizen. So if I by show of hands, tell me, are you tired of your civil rights being trampled on? If you are, please tell me, yes, you are. Yes? Yes, me too. Here's the problem. I'm not here to support you for your civil rights. I don't care for your civil rights. They are not something that I'm interested in. I am more support. I am interested in protecting your God-given, unalienable rights. There is a huge difference between the two, and your representatives, whether they're the legislative body or the judicial system, and most of the executives have a clear understanding that this is where you lie. You don't know this, so you fight for civil. Well, civil are immunity and privileges given out by the government. That's why they can take them away. That's why they abrogate everything with these SB bills that are coming out. If I give you just a quick analogy, and my eyes are so bad here. SB 277, State Senator Pan, we all love Senator Pan, introduced and got this bill passed to eliminate personal belief exemption. Personal belief exemption, that abridges. Well, I'm sorry, you just violated your oath. If I served in the military, I swore oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against foreign and domestic. If I violated my oath, where do you think I'd be? I'd be in the grave. There is no way that right now, to this day, when people come to me and they say, Daniel, are you going to work with our supermajority? How are you going to work with the supermajority? What are you going to do with the supermajority? How are you going to bring them to the table? No. I have no intentions in working with these people. Why? They've turned their backs on all of their constituents. When you pass repugnant legislation, there are over 25 cases to this day that I've been able to dig up. Mayberry versus Madison, right? Miranda versus Arizona. All laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. So everybody goes, Daniel, what are you going to do about all of these repugnant legislations that are acting under the color of law? The governor does not have to repeal anything. He doesn't have to go through the legislative body, and there's nothing the judicial system can do anything about it. The governor only needs to announce publicly the nullification, that which already abrogates what you already have. The supreme laws of the land protect you. It cannot operate under the color of law. That means they violated their oath. So no, I'm not here to negotiate with them. I'm here to ensure that those who pass those repugnant bills, those who try to swindle you out of your sovereignty or to take advantage of our children, our businesses, that locked us down for 2 years, if they agreed or supported, then they will be investigated under the California Emergency Services Act that the governor can institute. It can't just be used to shut down the state. It can be used as an investigative tool. And when you've abrogated that, you violated your oath, you get to see the inside of a prison. That's what you get. But we don't have any candidate and governor who has the gumption, the willingness, and the fortitude to actually say it's time to go to jail. That's how it works in this state. That's how it works when you swear an oath. That's what happens when you violate this. So when I look at these reprobate, sellout bills, 906, upon registering a student for a public or charter school, parents or guardians will be required to disclose whether any farms are located at the home of the student and details on ownership, storage, and accessibility. That abrogates Article 1, Section 1 of the state constitution. You don't get to know, because in that Article 1, Section 1 is the right to privacy. It actually has the word privacy in it. You don't get to know that information. One of my favorite ones, SB 866, that now vaccines, the consent is now 12 years old without parental consent. That you're 12-year-old now without having to tell the parents to go and get the shot. Listen, I stand on medical freedom, but my 12-year-old who just barely hit puberty does not know what's good for his or her body. And yet the state's going to give this and abrogate, again, state law. That's just the state law. And lastly, there's so many bills here that I could talk about. One of my favorite state senators, Scott Wiener. No pun intended, that is his last name. SB 145. This bill was passed that allows gay men who engage in sexual misconduct with a minor to not have to register as a sex offender, because the only way that they can have sex is by anal or oral. The law says that if there is oral or anal penetration between an adult and a minor, one of the max recourses is sex offender registration. According to Scott Wiener, I copied and pasted, I'm introducing a bill, SB 145, to end discrimination against LGBTQ young people regarding sex offender registration. Currently, LGBT young people who have consensual sex with a person aged 15 to 17 must register, whereas similar situations, straight young people don't have to. Let me just tell you, and I'm going to break this down before I close. They change the language to change the perceptions to get what they want, because they know you're ignorant to the laws. So they play around with the language. Here's how subtle this is that he just wrote in his tweet. And it sounds okay. He used the phrase in the word young people who have consensual sex with a person aged 15 to 17 must register, where similar situated straight young people don't have to. The word young people is subjective. He also combines the phrase with consensual sex with aged persons 15 to 17. Notice he doesn't say the word minor or child or children. Again, changing the language to change your perceptions to get what they want. This is not what I stand for. I stand on God, family, country. Jesus is my Lord and Savior. Our representatives have moved God to get away with what it is that they're doing. If you do not want somebody like me, you will never get another person like me if we do not get this right. I am not interested in negotiation. I will make them come to the table. Step down or stay inside the prison wall. That is what you will get under my administration. And I know a hell of a lot more to get this done. Thank you. I appreciate you. I would love to continue on. Please check out my website at danielforcalgovernor.com. Use the QR code. It will take you to my link tree. On my link tree, you can find all my videos. I have hours of footage, speaking engagements. I also have a phone line. I'm one of the few campaigning candidates where I'm the only one that will pick up that phone. And I will speak to you. I will get back to you. If I don't have an answer for you today, I will call you back, and it will be me, not someone like me. It will be me. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sonia. She has cards on the table, so if anybody's interested, please come up and figure it out. So we're going to go further in now. I really like, Sonia, what you said about supporting the candidates, because that's what the Eastern Care Alliance wants us to do. We want to support these candidates who are new. Their parents are mad. They don't know what they're doing. They want to run them like saying things, and we know how to do it. And we don't know how to do it. Thank you so much.
I want to just one more thing. Okay, so guys, one more thing. 58 counties over 16 years, we've been absent at one of the most critical areas, and that's the immigration office. I now have brochures in 8 different languages. I'm looking for volunteer teams to start going out there. I'm going to start registering with people, but they had a very big advantage, but not anymore. So just let you know. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys.
All right, so we have Andrew Hayes. He is the board president of the Lakeside School District.
Oh yeah.
We have Andrew Hayes on the wall. He's the candidate
Street,
school
Linden,
district
and
and
all
Los
of it.
Valley area.
Oh, really? You better call me. I love
Candidate for
you. I
Lakeside
just got an
or
SIV the other day. 6 and 6 after 27
Doctor
years.
is the same candidate for Alpine at large.
It'll go good.
Kyle Newman, Lamesa Spring Valley in the La Crescenta area.
I don't give up. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, I love
Marvin
you.
Atik,
Amy.
he's the candidate for San Diego County Office of Education, East County East. And Megan Dunn. Community College, Lamesa, and El Cajon area seat number 2. So both Marvin and Megan's races are on the primary ballot, so you will see their names when your ballots are mailed out on May 9th. If you live in their jurisdiction. Some of these candidates are fundraising now and need support. They can, they can report out their committee's name if you have not, if you have it on your heart to write them a check or like current client or all right, and we also will hear from our friend Corbin. He's from We the People, who's running for Assembly seat number 79 against Sheila Weber. And lastly, we have a report out on Kenville, which rocks for Assembly member Randy Robles' office as early as this morning. We will have a brief update on each bill that are concerned to us and Assembly member Robles, as well as we all know how interested we are about those bills that are coming up probably on social media. All right. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Barry.
I just got asked if we should set the timer for 5 minutes for each of you on your opening statements, and I said, heck no. Okay? No. So, you folks, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, we're gonna put this up here for the band, I think. So, you can hear me? All right, good. So there's no way I'm going to give them these 5 minutes. You're not giving a keynote address, okay? So let's be clear on a couple things. Jennifer said it. Some haven't even filed for office yet, okay? Because filing, now some may have done their financial filings. That's not qualifying for you for the ballot. That's just meaning you can fundraise. So filing for the November election, if they are only on the November ballot, and that's most of you, it doesn't even open until July and will close in August. All right. So some of them may decide they're not going to run between now and then, right? I doubt it. But let me ask you: is anybody out here sitting here who's thinking about it and is not up here because you haven't decided yet for November? Anybody want to admit it? Anybody raise their hand?
But you already dropped out. Just kidding.
All right. Does anybody know someone who's thinking about it? Okay, there you go. Who's not? You know someone who's thinking about it who's not sitting up here. And because it's you, Tracy, they're connected. They're connected. Okay, good. All right. So no one up here is running against each other. Well, technically, I guess there's a couple of seats in the side, right? There's 4 seats in the side. So no one technically is running against each other, so we're not going to treat this like a debate. All right? There's still some fireworks. So I may throw in some more exciting questions than just the typical stuff. And I checked those out with Andrew today. I may be kidding. But we did make sure whatever the questions were, they didn't embarrass fire. No. Okay, so I'm teasing. So of you folks sitting up here, how many are first-time candidates for anything? So we're going to use tonight not just as information for them, but also maybe it's going to help some of you know how to deal in situations like this. Okay? So fair enough, right? Okay, if I ask any tough questions, I'll go to him first. And that way, by the time we get down to, well, I'll go to Nate second, and then by the time we get back to the middle, no, I don't know. I'm going to have to learn more about that. Learn that right away as a candidate, that it's okay to say that. Now, if someone asks you, what's your name and why you're running, don't say, I don't know. I'm going to have to learn more about that, okay? But you understand what I'm saying. So, but admit that if it's a tough question, you're going to have to look into that. And that may benefit you at an actual forum. I know this is a forum, but you know what I'm saying. It's forum with kind of friends, that's the way I'm looking at it. So I can use it. But if you're ultimately, in September or October, sitting in front of the League of Women Voters or something like that, and not that women voters aren't friends, but the League of Women Voters may not be friends. It depends. You might want to know that it's okay to acknowledge, I'm going to look into something. So I'm just letting you know. So let's start with the easy one. Don't go to me. Tell us a little about your background and why you decided to run for office. We're really not going to hold you to each having the exact same amount of time, but I do want to see if we can do it in a couple of days. Right. And this is a lesson learned too. It's not a keynote address. If you can't talk to someone on the street or at the door in a minute about who you are when you're running for office, you know what? So you're going to have to do it. So Megan, who are you and why are you running?
Yeah, Megan.
No.
Amazing. Amazing.
We're gonna have to figure this one out.
I'll be your mover.
And if any of you feel like you don't need the microphone, just say it. Her back will be better for it in the morning.
Thank you. I'm Megan Downs. I am running for Rosemont Pre-American Community College, District seat number 2, District 2, which is pretty much all of the Mesa and the southwestern part of the Oklahoma, which I live in, obviously. I actually, interestingly, I've lived in both. I've lived in La Mesa and Oklahoma, so I feel like it's, I could understand both areas. Funny enough, they're border towns, right? But they're extremely different right now. Looking at the voter rolls too, it's fascinating. So I work in social services and affordable housing, mental health, my whole adult career. So that's kind of always the lens that I look at things through. And I was very concerned the last 2 years with everything going on with our kids. I was very focused on the K-12 issues. Obviously, we started East County Parent Alliance with some of my friends and fellow parents, where we realized we were all doing the same work and we needed to band together and not reinvent the wheel, right? And one of the united fronts, especially for East County, most of us are natives. I was born at Grossmont Hospital. I grew up a block away from Grossmont College, actually. And so I feel like I really understand the area and have seen it change in the last 4 decades, almost 4 decades. And at the encouragement of a lot of friends and colleagues, I decided to throw my hat in the ring, realizing that the Grossmont Pre-America Community College had changed a lot over the past, I think, like 3 election cycles, really. They are all run by the AFT union. I found out the hard way, actually. It's really not until you're affected personally, right, that you learn these things. So I found out because I had my 3-year-old in their child development center at America College, and then I get a call on a Friday, this is like early January, that the school would not be opening up again that following Monday, and I'm a full-time working mother, and I had to scramble to find childcare, and it was at the same time that Foothills in Oklahoma was shutting down. There was no childcare in East County, you guys. And beggars cannot be choosers, so it was really tough past few months. And come to find out, they shut down because they placed all the unvaccinated staff on unpaid leave, forcing staff into early retirement. They accepted their religious exemptions but would not accommodate them reasonably. So even though there's testing right on site, they weren't allowed to get tested. They could walk a block away on site at PMAC or Grossmont to go get the test. They were willing to do anything. They were willing to wear masks. And they would not allow that. So I had to learn the hard way, kind of things going on over there that, honestly I didn't know. and kind of dive into those rabbit holes. And I've learned a lot, and I really want to get on that board and help out. It's a homogenous board. It's monopolized by the AFT union. They're all AFT Act trustees, so I really want to get on there and help out, and at least, even if I'm just one person, to play devil's advocate on that board and have constructive conversation. I really want to do that and bring balance back to that board.
Anthony, same question. Who are you? Give us some background. Do it in a couple minutes. AFT is American Federation of Teachers, by the way.
So I'm Anthony Carnavale, and I'm running for District 1 of the Home Valley Union School District. I'll put the microphone down right here. I'm running for District 1 of the Home Valley Union School Board. Like a lot of people in this room tonight, the past 2 years have been really eye-opening at how impactful local governance can be for the lives of our kids. My wife and I got, who's right here, we have 3 sons in the district, and we really got involved in February after our sons came to us and said, we're done wearing the mask, we don't want to do it anymore. So I said, okay, that's fine, go to school, don't wear your mask, stay in your seat, stay silent. And that set off a major storm at Las Vegas Street. The teachers, yes, the teachers seem to think that the California mask mandate was the supreme law of the land, and that the students' civil rights no longer mattered, and that they could do anything to gain compliance. So at that school, kids were really put out in the rain, in the sun, getting sunburned, for refusing to mask. And so we started bringing these issues to the board. I looked into, I didn't really know what a school board did, and I found out that they help write policy. So with our local union at the Home Valley Education Association, our school board wrote this COVID policy. And the first 5 words in the COVID policy violated the law. So I pointed this out to the board on a Tuesday, and by Friday they had scrapped their whole COVID mitigation plan. The Home Valley Education Association, the local union, came out on their social media pages and said, we stand with our colleagues at Las Vegas Creek and Blossom Valley. Those are the 2 schools our kids go to. So I saw how powerful and consistent the local union's voice is in these school boards, and they're backing most of the trustees on the board or have in the past, and realize that the voices that weren't there that are equally as powerful as stakeholders are students and their parents. And when we show up, we're able to eventually change and make life better for our kids in these schools. So that's why I want to get on the board, because I want to have a hand in writing this policy, and I want the parents and students' voices to be a much more integral part of it. And we can be. We are just as equal of stakeholders as our local unions, and the problem is our school boards don't hear from us. We're not major funders in their campaigns, at least not as a single entity. So I think I'll leave it at that.
Go ahead, take 2 minutes, but so this gentleman, as Jennifer said, is on the ballot in the primary, because they have a primary election. So help us understand, how many candidates and what the automatic do with the runoff, or could potentially be over in the primary.
Yes, it could be open in the primary. It's just an incumbent and I. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marvin Atik. I'm a native San Diegan. I was born and raised here in this county. I grew up in Spring Valley. My parents lived in Detroit, Michigan, and they had moved here from Iraq. I am the first generation Chaldean. There are many Chaldeans in this community, and about 120,000 of us that live in this area. Small business owner. My family grew up in businesses in this area. I could only scream and yell at the TV so much after I see what's happening to the children being groomed, being pushed around, being forced to wear masks, being forced to have vaccines, forced to have gender identity training, critical race theory. These are things that I am going to put an end to. Growing up in San Diego, I grew up in the Spring Valley area with my high school, Spring Valley Middle. An extremely checkered past. I'm sure many of you will get to understand me and know what I was about and what I grew up in. I grew up here in East County with the street gangs for over 22 years and outlaw motorcycle clubs. I was very dedicated. It was my life. I was willing to die for it. Now I'm willing to die for these children. I retired peacefully, left in good standing with everything that I had been involved in my life. And now I'm ready to fight for your children. Nobody's going to mess with your kids. I've been in street fights. I've been hitting cameras with baseball bats, and I'm going to take hits for every single one of you. I'm not going to let this happen to anybody anymore. Any child that is preteen will be protected by me 100%. If I have to show up with 200 motorcycles to go take a gun from someone's hand or pick up the hell out of somebody to protect their children, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I will never stop protecting children, and I will never stop looking out for the best of all of your interests. I did everything I can, throughout the 4 or 5 years of not being in public office to get very involved, to try to stop human trafficking. I've been calling governors from state to state, working with different politicians and district attorneys to try to say child trafficking is being trafficked. A lot of trafficking and finances are running through the sale of produce, avocados, and tomatoes, and so forth. So I would say single-handedly, I did the best I could, but I got up for 8 days in America. I know a lot of people wouldn't be happy about that. But I promise you that I'm going to do everything I can, and it's going to do just more than stopping the CRT and stopping the 1619 project. We're going to work together, and we're going to stop all of these people in their tracks. We're going to bring self-sustainable to every single one of these schools. There's going to be water supplies, there's going to be food supplies. These schools, maybe things you don't like that I'm going to do, but I want to be available for you all. We're going to work together, we're going to extend this we're going to get parents next couple of hours to work, bring more income into their families. We're going to do everything we can to give child development skills. We're going to have programs for detransiting children when they get into high school to make sure that the decision in their life are going to be there for them to get a little bit older. I stand with everyone here, and I hope that you all stand with me. Bless everybody. Thank you.
There's a trivia contest going on next door, and so we're going to compete with that. So I realize the closer you hold the mic to your mouth, the better. No, you were fine. I noticed when it comes away a little bit, there's a little problem. So Autumn, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Autumn Ellenson, and I grew up here in San Diego as well. My background, my college background is graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in sociology, and then I went on to get a graduate degree in teaching. I've been working in the public school system for well over 2 decades, and a classroom teacher for the last 7 years. But I got involved with this because I'm a mom to 3 children in the Lakeside School District. I'm a big supporter of our community, so in March of 2020, I was in support of the 3 to 5 week shutdown, whatever you want to call it, to kind of get a handle on what was going on. And then I went through a series of shock and awe as they continued to not open our schools or let the children back in for weeks, months, years. And so that's when I really became involved. So I want to bring logical, common sense policies back to our schools. I feel like I understand teachers and students and what their needs are, but I also want to bring in, logical, common sense back to all of our policies.
By the way, that was the kind of 2 minutes I liked.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Erica Simmons, and I am running for school board in Alpine. I'm running for school board in Alpine because our current board is complacent. We are losing children by the day. We have lost over 500 children in our schools. And when you have a full, highly functioning school board in schools, you don't lose children. And so, as a mom also, I can't send my kids to Joan McQueen. I send them to LCC, and that's not in my Alpine community, and that is something that shouldn't be happening. And so I want to be able to sit on that board, have those conversations. I have been a principal for over 10 years. I work in San Diego Unified. I have seen firsthand the damage that we have done to our children, and it needs to stop. And so I hope to get an opportunity to serve in Alpine so I can be that voice of logic to ensure that our complacent board doesn't continue to hurt our children. Thank you.
Can I call you Eric, or I can call you Doctor? Oh, okay. No, I'm not going to answer the question. No, we were having a conversation, but I want people to be thinking about this too, because she's an educator. So that 3-word ballot designation becomes really significant. Yours is done. Yours is done. Everyone else gets to decide on the 3-word ballot designation. Unless you're an incumbent, you get more than 3 words, as long as it's the reference to the title. So this gentleman can put member Lakeside Union School District. You can use all of those words. Everyone else has to use 3, but they're important. And so, real estate investor probably doesn't do it. Used car dealer may not do it. But if you're an educator, what that looks like, may be important. So everyone needs to be thinking about that, and you folks who are talking to folks out there need to be thinking about that too. Don't do it blindly. Talk to someone who knows and can give you advice. You're not going to have the money to do a poll on your ballot designation, but at least get some perspective, because you may think, hey, janitor sounds really good, but that may not do it, although there's nothing wrong with a janitor, Can you say something else? Anyway, all right. Sorry to digress. Kyle Herman. He's an incumbent, but not an incumbent school board member.
Yeah, that's right. I think I do actually have a booming voice, and I use the mic because I am a teacher. But I know I'll use the mic. So I use my loud booming voice all day. I'm running for the La Mesa Spring Valley School District, as Greg said. I'm Kyle Herman, and this year it is actually going to individual trustee districts, which means I'm not running for the entire district. I'm running for La Mesa, Mount Helix, and Casa de Oro. Those are the only people who will be able to vote for me this time around. First time this election has ever happened, so I really don't know what it's going to look like. But anyway, why I'm running for La Mesa Spring Valley is because I have been basically in an educational setting since 2002. I know what you're thinking. How has this guy been in education since 2002? That's because that's when I started kindergarten. And I haven't spent a day out of education ever since. I've been in college, and outside of college I started teaching. And right now I am a teacher and a student, which I think actually gives me the perspective that I need, because I know what it means to fight for teachers, but I also know what it means to fight for students, because I'm not going to get up here and say that I'm not ever going to fight for the teachers. That's simply not true. They need a voice, the parents need a voice, the students need a voice, and that's what I hope to be able to do. As a member myself, I would hope to be the accessible candidate, transparent candidate, and or the accessible school board member and transparent school board member, showing up to places and always being available when people want to talk to me. Currently, I serve on the Valley de Oro Community Planning Group. We advise the Board of Supervisors on land use issues for the Rancho San Diego Mount Helix area, and I do currently serve as the vice chair, so I have won an election before.
By the way, I was described as Mr. East County earlier. No, I think this guy is vying for Mr. East County.
Yeah, that's right.
You're too kind. I'm Andrew Hayes. I'm on the Lakeside School Board. Now, I want to set a challenge down for all of you tonight. Please put our ages together, Kyle and I, and write him a check for the total for his campaign. Okay, so how old do you think we are together? Then write him a check for that amount. Okay? $50. In dollars. In dollars and cents. Come on, man. There you go. So anyway, I'm on the Lakeside School Board, and when I ran, I never thought that my #1 battle would be to reopen schools. And that's what the battle was. When I ran before, I talked about the ABCs. I'm going to talk about them again, but a little bit differently. Academic excellence, academic excellence. When we see what happened in COVID, our kids clearly are struggling. Now, I'm grateful in Lakeside that has grown a little bit from our math and reading, but COVID shut us down. We know kids need to be in the classroom, and that's where they should be. So academic excellence is a key pillar for us. Back to basics. Folks, if we were actually focused on basics and the kids, we would have been back in school a month after COVID had started. Instead, we dragged for 2 years, and I fought to reopen our schools. And fortunately, in Lakeside, we did reopen earlier than most districts, not as early as I would have liked, but earlier than most. So I'm proud of that. And then commitment to students. I think too often we found in the debate with COVID that our kids weren't put first. And we didn't put them first. We put all these other positions first, and we were too concerned about where all these other areas were coming from, and maybe all these other opinions coming at us. And I get that. Look, I've been in board meetings where there's both sides coming at you, so I understand. But if you always keep the students as our rudder, we're going to make the right decisions. And so the ABCs are important to me. I fought mandates. I've been a consistent mandate fighter, if you will. I've organized school board members from across this county to oppose mandates and fight for local control. I'm going to keep doing that when I'm reelected. So I really appreciate your support, and I'm going to be here to take questions, obviously, and then later we can chat more.
No reason I'm covering just to mix it up, and then we'll go that way, and then we'll go that way.
So this question is, it says, the question is really what are the most important issues? But, you know, given how we want to get into some other stuff, because issues, we could take 2 minutes on each issue and we'd be here 10 minutes later. So what, since you narrowed it down, is there one most important issue being faced by your district? And what is it, and what would you do to address it?
All right.
Can you do that in a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do that in under a couple of minutes. Actually, I still have 2 things on my mind, though. I feel like there's an imminent issue that's coming up, and that's vaccine mandate. There's a bigger issue to me that, in the sense that it's been here longer, and that's enrollment for our district. So those are the 2 main things on my mind. Vaccine mandate, I think, is not okay. I would vote against it. I'm for choice, and if something's coming down the pipe from the state of California, I would fight tooth and nail to stop it or repeal it, along with Andrew Hayes and some of the other people that have been doing incredible things here in San Diego. But the bigger issue, enrollment, our enrollment was declining before COVID. COVID has done nothing to help that. And I think we really need to get our enrollment back up. And I kind of have a 2-pronged approach. I think that we need to have a campaign to really showcase and highlight the incredible programs that we have in Lakeside. Most people know that we have really great language immersion programs. That's why I got into the district, and then I moved to Lakeside after my children were already students there. But we also have incredible science and arts and music programs in Lakeside. We have Femineers and all of these really cool programs, award-winning programs that we need to get the word out about and get people to come into our district. The other side of that, I think a lot of people were still scared from COVID and removed their students and took them out of the district to go to other homeschool type programs. I'd like to get them back by making them feel safe and comfortable in our school district again, get them back, get their students back where they belong, and that's in-person school.
If you can do it like Autumn did and actually address 2 issues, you still do it in 2 minutes, I'm okay with that.
Well, some of the main issues that we're facing in our community right now is the vaccine mandates. Vaccine mandates are unnecessary. And children should not have to be forced to take vaccine at least at 18 years old. If the parents decide that that's what they want for their child, then it should be up to the parents, but it should not be up to the schools or the districts or the states to make those decisions. So as parents, we need to bring parental rights back to the states and make sure that parents have all the rights with their children. Everything needs to be explained to parents, and they should have an understanding of syllabuses and so forth, so we know what's going on in criteria and the daytime. When COVID came, my business was closed for 9 months, and then we ended up being closed for almost a year and 3 months. Well, we ended up figuring out, and even I had a manufacturing business, which I'm a cosmetic manufacturer, and we were even closed, and we could not even have workers working in our manufacturing plant. At the same time, who wants to put Trump in their body anyway? So that's something you can always tell people. Because if they force you to get the vaccine, tell them, why would you put Trump in your body? Because it was his vaccine, and it always did. At the same time, too, we need to put a stop to critical race theory. The education of critical race theory is where they feel that a baby is born racist. Children are born racist. My kid, who's 9 years old, never knew what the word racism meant. In the past couple of years, he's been exposed to these words and exposed to it, and now he doesn't feel guilty, but he's asking questions. So no child should ever feel racist in any kind of a way. They are innocent children. We're going to put a stop to it. Vaccine, with the vaccine mandates, the keep pushing mask mandates at the same time, just because we think it is over, it is not over. They're going to continue to push through that, and we are going to put a stop to it. At the same time, we said earlier, 1619 project is education that they're bringing back into our school system, that we need to all be very educated about it, and a lot of us, when you try to understand, it confuses, and you start to look at the history of it, but inherently it makes you feel racist and you've done something wrong. Many of you are here on Caucasian. We have built this planet together. We built this world together. Well, I could say I'm this Caucasian, so I made it many of you. And the reason why I was in our most clubs because we invented the wheel. So that's why I was able to do this. At the same time.
My family's originally from the same area too.
Oh, really? Wonderful. Well, I'm a Canadian.
Are we all?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm from the St. Louis Supervision. So my favorite backyard was the garden. Child grooming seems to be a really big thing that we're dealing with today in the education system. Grooming children to change their gender, change their sexuality, be supportive of what they're doing, and not explaining it to the parents, and parents not having an idea what is going on. This is a real issue. Parents need to know everything that is going on, and when a school is grooming a child, it's along the lines of pedophilia, and we cannot let this happen. And don't be scared to call out these people, because what they are doing is absolutely wrong. Our children are innocent, and if they're going to go this far, how much farther are they going to go? We're going to put a stop to it, and we're going to use our voices. We are going to, all of us unite, and we're going to do more than just sit in this room. Many of you are going to go spend $35 and go get a press pass, and then you're going to be able to go to these people and ask the question to them directly. And with the press pass, you're going to be able to go into the same function and ask them, why do you want to groom children? Why are you hoping that they are going to follow the gender or the sexuality that you choose? Let these children figure out who they are. Thank you, everybody.
All right, with the Home Valley and vaccine mandate, average daily attendance is a huge issue. Our district has about $160 million budget, but the loss of students is cutting into that to the tune of tens of millions of dollars is will be slated to lose. I'm going to bring up, I don't want to rehash these two issues, but social emotional learning, and more importantly, transformational social emotional learning is something that is being funded to the tune of $120 billion by our federal government. A couple weeks ago, the Cajon Valley District had the Thrive Conference, and there were only 3 speakers at this conference, one of whom was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Richard Lerner from Tufts University. He's the director of an institute there that Cajon Valley is going to be using to model our social emotional learning after. You go right on the Tufts website. It's that coming out of COVID, the most important things that we need to focus on are white supremacy, having children acknowledge their implicit bias, and I mean, he goes on and on about all of the problems that happened during the Trump administration. I think a lot of people would call it Trump derangement syndrome, but it's just this whole page of gobbledygook. And they're using the good name of social emotional learning, which is based off of 74 years of data from 1950 to 2014, that does show that, you know, if you teach a kid conflict resolution and how to manage their emotions, that their grades are positively impacted. But now this transformational social emotional learning is being, there's all these critical Marxist theories that are being attached to it. So another program you can look at, CASTLE, which was the model that our district was using, has also gone completely radical. And they're doing this based on what happened during COVID, and they're saying we need to take the goodwill of this well-researched social emotional learning and pitch all these pet ideas to it, all these politicized ideas, with absolutely no data that, you know, being so divisive in the classroom has helped the students. So I think that's a well-funded problem that's coming down the line, and on the board, it's going to be the board's responsibility to write the policy so that we don't end up with a Trojan horse for critical race theory through social emotional learning. Thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. That was awesome. As someone who has kids in Cajon Valley, actually my oldest and Marvin's son are in the same class. They were some of the first kids to take their masks off before everybody else did. We're very proud of them. Very proud of my oldest for doing that. So, like a lot of others are saying, I'm very concerned with enrollment numbers for Grosse Pointe Immaculate Community College. From the numbers that I can just see myself, it looks like enrollment has dropped 3,000, and that's just from August of 2021. And I'm told anecdotally that that's actually extremely underreported. As someone who works in public health, I actually work with some on-site school-based programs. I can tell you that some of these kids and young adults, when they go missing these days. We don't know where they go. So I'm very concerned with that. Just talking to some of my neighbors, I know that there's a lot of kids who graduated high school in the last 2 years at a very difficult time, and they couldn't go to their neighborhood community college that their parents paid hard, taxpayer money for, because of the mandates, or because there are emotional behavioral issues going on that they still haven't recovered from. I'm very concerned with the mental health issues of this TAE population. Transitional age youth, 18 to 25 years old, is very concerning to me once these kids get out of the K-12 public and private school. Especially the opioid and fentanyl issue is something we really need to focus on, you guys. It's the largest, fastest growing killer of that age population right now. Nobody is talking. Again, I work in public health, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but it's very concerning how easy it is to get, how it's mixed with everything. The days of experimenting are over. I mean, I can talk about my own personal experience. Being at that age was very difficult, that transitional age youth. So that's something I really want to focus on that board, is making sure that there's good partnerships with plenty of amazing organizations in San Diego County, a lot of nonprofits that do this work, that are wanting and willing to do whatever it takes to get a hold of those kids and find them before they either, something bad happens, or before they leave the community college and can't find them. So those are things I'm really concerned about, and also staff. And I know it was kind of coming down hard on the unions. I've been told the unions are going to come after me. It's going to be a bloodbath. I was told this is a suicide mission. Why are you doing this? But I do want to say, my family was actually part of the union. We were in the electrical union. We're non-bargaining members, so no one can say that I'm anti-union. I'm just not for unions don't listen to their members. And I can say, as family in the electrical trust, we have, even though we have no say because we're non-bargaining, we have made it known that we don't appreciate the way they vote or who they support for those running for assembly and state roles. So it's really important to keep up the advocacy, and I want to continue doing that on this board in this role.
remember the question. One thing. So I think a couple things. One is enrollment is absolutely a critical issue across all school districts, but I want to wax philosophical for one moment. I think a lot of school districts' core issue is that their boards have lost the trust of their communities and of their parents. And,
Yep, sure have.
and as a result, they're leaving the school districts and they're going other places. They're leaving the state. They're tired of the political process because their board members did not hear them in many cases. And look, I can speak from my experience on my board. We've had some parents, even in this room, who've come to our board meeting, and a majority did not hear the comments. They make their own decisions. We're individual board members. That's fine. So I think we've lost trust, and I think we have to rebuild it. That's number one. Number two for me right now is, of course, we have a vaccine mandate which impacts enrollment. Three for me is in Lakeside, we have a great immersion program. We have awesome immersion programs. I want us to focus in now on the career pathways for our students. We've had so many opportunities in Lakeside to provide opportunities for our kids to have pathways for career. But too often we say college is the only way to go. I grew up in Lakeside, I was a student in Lakeside. Everyone knows, you look at me, I was born for college. Not every student. But not every student is like that. And we have to support that. And if they go to a school and we get them there and they're in remedial and we're not finding other opportunities for them, that's on us.
That's right.
So I'm really excited to work with Autumn on some of her ideas because I think that having career pathways will help increase and retain our enrollment that we have in Lakeside. So I'm excited about the work we're going to do.
We need to bring that
He won in his high school yearbook. He won. It wasn't most likely to go to college. It was most likely someday in a form to say that I was born for college.
All right. Well, to not really repeat what everyone else has said, I'll wax philosophical for a second too. When we talk about critical race theory, I think there's a lot of things that just come to your mind automatically, what it is. But honestly, it's actually about how we instill value in our students. When you tell them that on the basis of the color of their skin that they are a certain way, that they can or can't achieve something, or that they are or aren't something because of that, that's really what gets me when you talk about that sort of stuff. And so I know there's specific curriculum, there are specific books that are being pushed, but really it's about telling our children, for me, that they are valuable and that they have potential. And that, I think that's kind of the, 20 years ago, you could tell a child that they could be whatever they want when they grew up. And I guess that's kind of what I'm hoping to return to. So just very simply, one of my main goals as a school board member, in whatever capacity that looks like, would be inspiring excellence in our students. Literally telling them that they can do things in this world. Partnering with community organizations. I know that many of our elected officials offer certificates and awards and recognition, and that's what I want to do. I want to tell kids when they're doing things really well, and I want to inspire them to be their best selves.
Let's get rid of Common Core.
I appreciate everybody's comments because that within school districts we are going to face many of the similar issues. I think the biggest issue is that we forgot about the children in which we serve. And what I mean by that is we are not making decisions based on the children. We know that there's going to be vaccine mandates. We and I personally want to make sure that we give our families the opportunity for choice. Choice for schools, choice for mandates, choice for everything, because that is their child. I think we as school boards have lost the trust, just like Andrew has said, and parents are afraid of the decisions that we are making. So one of the greatest issues that I do see is that we are no longer serving the child, we're serving somebody else. And so we need to come back to the table as a collective unit. And hopefully I will have that opportunity to sit there as a board member and make sure that the child is the very first person that we are thinking about when we are making a decision. And also remembering to bring our families back into that conversation, because we have forgotten our families. We have forgotten their voices. And that's why we no longer have that trust, and we're not making the right decisions, and we're losing students in our schools. And so bringing children back to the forefront is what I would like to do. That's the biggest issue.
So, okay, the next question, this is going to be a lightning round, okay? When I say why are you the best qualified candidate, you've already told us about yourself, okay? That's a different question than telling us your bio, right? So you should be able to do this in like 45 seconds. Fine. I know the two of you in the middle can, because you prove it to me over and over. Okay.
I'm a teacher,
Right.
right?
Why are you the best qualified candidate?
The reason why I'm the best qualified candidate to enter the board members in Alpine is because, number one, I'm a mom. There are no females on the board in Alpine, and I think that it's really important to have a female voice because I'm a mom, I'm also a teacher, and I'm an educator. And when you bring all of those things together, I think that's what makes me the most qualified candidate, because I will be serving alongside a bunch of complacent individuals who are not putting children first.
Awesome. Well, if there's no females on the Alpine board, there's no males on the La Mesa Spring Valley board, but I don't know if I can say that out loud. So I'll just move on from that. But as I said, I'm going to listen. One of the things that became famous about our school board was when it went to reopen, one of the particular members used very vitriolic language in describing what they thought the parents were trying to accomplish. Well, yeah, I don't even know if I want to repeat it in front of friends. But my opponent, or my potential opponent, said that it was a white supremacist idea to open the schools when they had polled the schools, and 80% of the parents wanted the district to reopen. And she was in a 4-to-1 minority opinion on that. And so they tried to open the schools, and that is what she said about the parents. So if you want to send your kids to school, that is a white supremacist idea, and subjecting teachers to, get this, teaching is a form of slavery. So, need I say more? I don't really think so.
So, I think the bare bones is I'm going to keep fighting for you. I'm going to keep fighting mandates. I'm going to keep fighting tax increases. I defeated a $66 million property tax increase in Lakeside. I'm going to keep fighting for achievement to grow in our district. I'm going to keep fighting for the issues that my community in Lakeside cares about. And that's why I'm going to win, and that's why I'm the best candidate.
All right, I'm going to make a great candidate because I know the district. I know the District 12 because I've served on several district committees, the budget committee, distance learning committee. I also serve on the school site council, so I know my school inside and out. I'm involved in the PTSA, but not on the PTSA, so I'm just kind of aware of everything going on in our district. The other thing that makes me a great candidate is that I'm a steward of the community. So I have spoken out at every single board meeting since October of 2020 to stand up for the families that were not brave enough to stand up for themselves. And I didn't always have a lot of friends doing that, but and I also care about work. I don't just care about people that agree with me. I want to hear everybody out and make policy that can support the most amount of families, because we're very divided in this country, and I think that bringing people together starts at this local level. All right, thank you.
What makes me a great candidate for the Board of Education in District 30 is I can relate with a lot of the students. And more than relating with a lot of students, I have a lot of fresh ideas, and I'm willing to get my hands dirty. I go to numerous schools, and I do work at numerous schools with my own hands, from running gardens to creating gardens and having programs for children to learn self-sustainability. I love this country, and I'm America first, and nothing will stand in that way. I will fight for this flag, and I will bring patriotism back to every single school. Every single student needs our love and needs our help. They've been under a mask for the past couple of years, and we're going to be there for them to see their smiles again. Love everybody.
What makes me the most qualified candidate, other than having 3 sons in the district? I don't know that that's the qualifier. I will put the students and their families first. And I love reading policy and the Constitution, the state and federal Constitution. I'm adept at pointing out where our own district's policies are running afoul of those students' rights. And I'll continue to do that because I see many other areas where their rights are second to other interests. So that's why I'm here.
Great.
I care about students and staff. You know, my opponent voted to, I can't say fire, technically, put a ton of staff who worked really hard and served their whole careers on the Rosemont Piedmont College campuses on unpaid leave indefinitely. They can't even, you know, collect unemployment because they're just in this limbo period, right? And that's not fair. They're forced into early retirement. And I care about them, and I care about the students and the students we've lost and the students who can't attend those schools who wanted to attend those schools. And I have a history in my community of serving. I'm a servant leader. I serve people that don't have a voice for themselves. My neighbors and I, this time last year, fought really hard against the placement of 2 sexually violent predators in our neighborhood. That was us. Yeah, that was a really fun time. And we learned a lot along the way on how this all works and how we have to stand up for ourselves because no one else will. But we were lucky enough to have some awesome elected. Senator Jones, Dan Bickford was there to help us, so we were very grateful for that. And we learned how to work with our electeds, and electeds who might not have the same perspective as us. Like Autumn was saying, I really appreciate that. And we've done that through East County Parent Alliance as well, where some of us had different points of view and might have been coming from different backgrounds, but it was really important to us to be inclusive and to work with each other, put our differences aside because of the kids and our community. It was extremely important. And I've done that throughout my career and in my own personal time. I was appointed on La Mesa's Citizen Homelessness Committee, East County Homeless Task Force, PTA, Girl Scouts. That's it. Thank you.
Said Girl Scouts.
How are you going to make yourself accessible to your constituents? Okay. Whether you work this into your answer or not, I don't care. But think about it. It starts now. It doesn't start when you get elected. So if you've got a website, everybody have a website? Not yet? Okay. If you've got a website or a Facebook page, or you're going to have a website or a Facebook page, think about, is your phone number and your email address on there, or is it a form that someone needs to fill out for someone to get back to them? And if you're the media and they want to call you because they're doing a story, how does that work? So remember, it starts now. And if you don't have your phone number or your email address on your Facebook page or your website, I'm like going, okay, you're not accessible now. But you don't have to answer that part. I'm just like working that in. How will you be accessible to your constituents?
I have a domain name. Done for gccccd.com, 3 C's.
Say that 3 times fast.
Done for gccccd.com. And pretty much everyone has my personal cell phone number at this point, so you're welcome to have it too. And I'm very accessible, and that's something I pride myself on, honestly, is transparency. So I'm happy to talk anytime. Woo!
So now as a candidate, then, if you're elected, what are you going to do to make yourself accessible? Is that what you're going to do?
Absolutely, and that's something that I've done with building relationships with the Cajon Valley School District, fighting for my kid. I really believe in working along with them, and I think it's worked well. We got what we wanted for the most part. It took a lot of time, but showing them that we were partners in this, and they made themselves accessible to me, and I really appreciated that, and I saw how well it worked for me as a constituent and a voter.
Great, thank you. Andrew.
Thanks, Barry. I was thinking about this today because it seeing during COVID parents getting involved in what our boards are doing, our school boards are doing, was a powerful example of the voice that parents and students have. So I haven't thought it all the way through yet, but I would like to let my constituents know what we're up to as a board, and ask for their feedback on those things as policies are being written, as funding's going out. It would be nice to have the parents involved there. I have a Facebook page and a cell phone number. I would say call or text me, and be happy to talk to anyone in the district. That's it.
Thank you. Fair enough. It's good to say you're thinking about it because you're being thoughtful about it.
The best way I'd like the constituents to reach out to me would be personally, through my email or through my phone number. But I'm meeting a lot of the constituents just in person. I started my campaign going to gas stations and getting all my signatures, and I was able to get the word out to Arizona, and other people started to do it. Meeting these people directly is the best way to do it. Always have your business card on you, because everybody you meet has a kid. Go to the schools, meet the parents. Go to schools you don't know, hang up, hold signs up, pass out papers. Megan made a paper for kids not to wear masks. I went to 4 different schools and was passing them out to different parents in the line. I was getting cussed out, I was being fed. Lots of many things that people were doing in the kindness. Reaching out to the people is very easy. We have access to all their phone numbers, and we're able to send them text messages weekly and daily. It's very important that we keep a lot of these parents in view of what is exactly happening throughout the days, and give parents the opportunity to decide if they need to move their kids to a different school or not. So the best way to reach out to me will be directly from me.
All right. Yeah, I would do the same thing. I would put up my phone number, my email, be accessible through all social media channels. And in addition to that, I know there's a lot of people, especially in Lakeside, that are more in-person type people. They don't follow social media. They don't like to go those avenues. So I would like to set up maybe an ongoing or standing coffee morning type meeting or a lunch or something where people can come and talk about what their concerns are with the district, especially those people that are too shy to do it otherwise. Get their thoughts out to us and have their questions answered.
Great.
I love that coffee because that's something that I am currently doing, and I think that's very important. But some of the other things that I would consider doing outside of my email and my cell phone number is really continuing the grassroots work that I'm doing now. Attending events, working alongside as I'm part of the baseball board, the Kiwanis that my husband and I serve on. I'm on school site council at a school, so I can make sure that I'm hearing current issues, and I can sit down next to the parents after the meeting and say, talk to me, tell me what you're thinking. Really being a part of all of the activities that are happening in Alpine, so I could introduce myself, shake hands, talk to the children. That's really important also. Sit next to a child and say, tell me about school. Do you like it? What do you like? And so that I can bring back that firsthand knowledge, as well as staying after for board meetings. I think that's really important. At the end of a board meeting, it's not time for me to go home. It's time for me to sit there and listen and welcome that conversation from the parents who are there. So those are the things that I want to do. I want people to know me, not only by Dr. Erica Simmons, but by Erica, a servant leader who serves our children, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm gonna adopt the coffee idea too. So that's brand new. But quite honestly, I have all the social media outlets. The Instagram, Facebook, all of that. I have my website, and I show up to things. It's not hard to find me. If anyone was really trying to look for me, it wouldn't be that hard. So I try to be out places. The only time I stay home is if I'm working on homework for myself, but otherwise I'm out in the community and I'm doing things basically every night. And so I will continue to do that, and I won't be a recluse and hide in my house away from the community.
If you hang out at Skyline Church Coffee Shop, you will eventually run into them.
And if you hang out in the Skyline Coffee Shop, you will see me at least 4 days a week. Yeah, and you'll find Barry too. If he's going to call me out like that, you'll see him there too.
Great, we'll find both of them in the coffee shop at Sky. I'll go. I want to see you both. So I have a Facebook page, personal Facebook, and a Facebook page. I have an email on there. My phone's on there. I would advise you go take a look at the school district website and see whose cell phone number is on there. It's mine. I'm very accessible to my constituents. I have held coffees with our staff. I've met with community members throughout my time. I have a town hall that you will all actually be hearing about here shortly that I'm going to put together. Very excited about it. I'm present in the community. I try to be everywhere, and I'll continue to be accessible. So, there we go.
By the way, I used to put in my ballot statements, my last words were accessible and my phone number. And people would always say, man, you don't want to do that. All these crazies are going to call you. Okay, you know what? I would get 2 phone calls during the course of a lifetime. But the number of people who saw that I put that and said, wow, he's given his home phone number and didn't call was way more positive than the negativity that came from a couple people screaming at me. But actually, the 2 people that called were not negative. So, why not? If you are a spouse, significant other, partner, family member of any of the folks sitting up here, stand up. All right. This is important too, by the way. And if you did not get their approval to run for office, you know, then I don't know if there's any like marriage counselors that you need to meet here. So anyway, but okay, so we're gonna try to wrap it up because I know we want to get the legislative, and there was another speaker, right? There was a candidate? Corbin? Oh yeah, yes. Oh, with the, I love it. Yeah, nice, all right. So let's go here. If the union were to contact you, and I understand some of you may be contacted because you're getting threatened, okay, but that's not what I'm talking about. Say the union were to contact you and ask you to fill out their questionnaire and or interview. What would you do?
We're starting with the guy. I told you I'd give the hard question to this guy.
Well, I would sit down with them. They're a stakeholder in a district that I serve. I serve the kids, I serve the community, and we have staff. Lakeside has 600 staff. I have to hear their concerns. Whether or not they elect to choose to support me is up to them. And they have to evaluate my record based on their beliefs. But I would sit down with any stakeholder group who wants to talk with me.
I never want to follow Andrew in my answers. It doesn't generally work. Or I could just say ditto. But yeah, absolutely. I talked to someone one time and they basically said, you know, I wasn't seeking their support, I didn't expect it. But really, you know, so much as we can agree, I can agree with them, but I am there to fight for the students, the parents, and the teachers, not necessarily whatever it is that they are proposing at that specific time.
I'll move it.
As the gentleman to my left mentioned, you know, they are members of a school that I would be serving. But they would know coming to me that every decision that I make, I always put children first. And so being able to have a conversation, whether or not we agree or we don't agree, if they choose to support me or if they don't, they know that in the end, whatever decision is made, children are being put first. And I would hope that that would allow them to know that they can come to me, that we can talk about issues, and that in the end, children will be first on my mind, and that's how I will always vote.
And by the way, I am not suggesting that there's a right or wrong answer. Okay, this isn't about a right or wrong answer. We're testing you. We want to see how you think.
Well, first I would do your advice and tell them I want to think about it, or ask Andrew what he would do. But no, I'm steadfast in my beliefs, but I'm an open-minded person. I'm open to both sides, so I guess I would hear, you know, what they want to say, but I'm not going to just shift my beliefs based on anything that they're offering. Is what. So.
Great, Mark.
I would be open-minded to whatever they have to say to me, and as I did already, I went to the Board of Education and just walked into the Ring of Fire, and I walked into every single room last week, and I talked to every single person that I could talk to, and asked them all these same kind of questions about the union. And one of my main questions was, how many months does it take in days for teachers to strike for the union to bring. And that was the question I could never get answered. So, but I'm willing to listen to him, and I'm open to all different ideas, because we may not agree on something, but we may be able to come up with a solution. This campaign is about solutions, not emotions, for everybody.
Thank you.
All right, Barry, I have a question. You said if the union contacts you and asks you to fill out a questionnaire, right?
Okay. I notice I did not ask, would you seek the union endorsement? I simply asked an easier one. If the union contacted you and asked you to fill out their questionnaire as a candidate and or interview, could be both. Could be they don't do questionnaires, they only do an interview. It could be they only do a questionnaire, no interview. So I'm just saying and or. What would you do if they reached out to you saying, we'd like you to fill out our candidate questionnaire and or we'd like you to interview as a candidate?
As a candidate.
Yeah, as a candidate.
So, okay. As a board member, I realize we have to negotiate with all stakeholders. As a candidate, I'm not interested at all.
And I don't know if that changes anybody's answers that I clarified that I was talking about as a candidate.
Yeah.
If you want to take the mic back, you can.
I think my opponent will be endorsed as she has been in the past by CBEA, and I will gladly mention that my opponent's endorsed by CBEA. So that's right. That's how I feel about it.
Fair enough. Hey.
I've already been talking to one of the unions represented at Gross Mount Puyamaca Community College. They're very supportive of this race. They know the odds are against me based on the last few elections. And so I think that they are giving me some caution there, but they're hopeful too that maybe this is time for a change. My opponent has been in this seat for the past 3 elections, going on 12 years. So I think it is time for a change. I think they agree. And the other union represented, one of the others I should say, I'm absolutely open to meeting. I would love to meet with them and talk to them anytime.
Okay, this next question, again, no right or wrong answer. In fact, I'm even going to give you a way out and say you want to think about it. Okay? It's more about the way you think about these things. So it's going to be whoever wants to take it first. All right? Besides you.
Hey, I went first last time.
All right. So, what do you think of the Federal Department of Education, and should it exist? Why or not? Anybody want to try that one?
I think it needs to be looked at from a funding perspective, the importance that they bring from a funding perspective.
Okay. Andrew, you're last now.
I was coming down this way, but we.
Well, but if you want to take it, you don't have to.
I'll take it. Federal Department of Education. So, problem I've been looking into is $120 billion funding for transformative social emotional learning that's coming down the pipe. Seems like the Federal Department of Education tends toward top-down control rather than local control. Should we abolish it? Was that part of the question? Should it exist at all?
Yeah.
That's a tough question. How do schools get built without it? That would have to be reimagined. Yeah, I'd have to think about that.
Okay, fair enough.
It should be dissected and looked at, all of the forms that they have created, and we should go through them and make a lot of changes. Throughout the years, there's many changes made with a lot of racial bias, CRT, different programs that they're adding into a lot of the education system. So I think it's very important that we dissect the education papers and see exactly what is going on and see what has changed over the past couple of years. Because I would say the most concerning to me is what has happened in the past 2 years, not is what has been happening for the past 20 years. The past 2 years are very effective to our students, and that would be the number one thing we would search. Abolish it, maybe not, maybe just improve.
All right. Department of Education, yes, I do think it should exist, but I would like to question who's in power and who really benefits from the policies that are put in place. So I think that those things need to be examined and separated and should be independent of each other. But yes, I do think it should exist.
I think
For me, within each level of education, it's really important to understand the true systems and structures within, where funding goes, how students are being supported, and if it's not effective and we're not seeing growth for our students. One of the things that I always remind people is that money doesn't always improve education. And so, but we want to make sure that what is happening in our schools is directly impacting students positively, and that we're seeing change. And if not, then we need to step back and look at it and make sure that we make the appropriate changes.
I would just say, especially in my own teaching experience, there's no one I want help more from than a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. They're obviously the ones who are going to solve all of my problems. But really, it really, for me, does come down to local control. When we have local school districts that are the ones that are making decisions, very, very important decisions that affect our children's lives. And these are, okay, I already told you, I'm 24 years old, so these are children in my generation, okay? But we have these school boards making decisions over our children's lives, and they are local for a reason. And it's very difficult to take it from a local, being able to meet in a place like this, to giving control over to Washington, D.C., where many of you probably have never even been. So how are you supposed to communicate with them outside of a forum like this?
So last time I looked, Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which enumerates the powers of the federal government, there was no Department of Education listed there. So when that happens, it's the 10th Amendment and it goes to the states. With that, it's local control. I fought for local control. I've organized school board members for local control, a group that I spearheaded. We have 30 members locally. When you govern locally, you get better results. And that's what it's about.
Everyone smile. Smile. Right. The reason that
was a tough question is because, you're thinking, well, yeah, the funding flows down from there. So I understand, if you're talking about abolishing something, how does the funding work? It's obviously it would be incumbent on redirecting funding. But, people think about the funding flowing down, it flows up first, right? And it takes a very expensive night out on the town in D.C. before it comes back at 67 cents on the dollar or whatever it is. I could have asked it about the state, and you probably would have had more difficulty with it. But it's funny when you talk about police and fire. No one wants their police and fire departments administered at the federal level, right? Right? So anyway, good answers, everyone, but stuff to think about. Okay, question.
I have a question for the entire panel, for all school districts. And everyone's here because we all care about children in one way or another. And some of us have learned the hard way here lately that there is a complete, utter disconnect between the sheriff's department, the police department, and the school boards when it comes to the safety of our children. We have, Kyle and I have spoken briefly about this, we have 4, possibly 5 attempted child lorings in the Spring Valley, the Lamesa Spring Valley School District, and I was the one who notified the superintendent. No one told him. When I questioned the sheriff's department, their answer was, he needs to watch the news, we put out a press release. So I'd like to know from each one of you what you guys would do to help bridge that gap, because that's a huge one. If parents don't know, to warn their children that there's predators out there that are actively seeking to lure our kids. I think that's a very important.
So the question is, in essence, what would you do to better coordinate communications information with local law enforcement?
Yeah.
Okay, as a result of things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
They said that they do not have to do that. They do not have to tell the school board or even the superintendent that they're.
Okay, so did everybody hear that? They're saying law enforcement was telling you that they do not have to inform the schools of this, that they should watch the news. So someone in law enforcement administration told
said that the principal needs to watch the news, or the superintendent needs to watch the news.
Rachel San Diego Sheriff's Department told me that David Feliciano needs to watch the news more if he wants to find out what's happening in the school district. They are not required to tell that kids.
Everybody understand the question?
Yeah. And these are kids walking home from school. These aren't like kids that are out at 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Can you do it in 37.5 seconds?
So most schools and school districts have staff on site who are liaisons to police departments and sheriffs. Why are they not doing their job is my first question. My second question / answer is that I actually know the interim sheriff who was just appointed last week, Anthony Ray. I've worked with him before when he was on Santee Sheriff. I really want to get a hold of him and work with him. School safety is extremely important to me, and at the college level, K through 12 and the college level. It was literally my job, in my day job, working in homelessness, to work with all 18 municipalities within San Diego County and implementing all HOT teams, homeless outreach teams. So I have the experience to work with police departments. I really enjoy working with our law enforcement officers, and it would be something I'm very passionate about and would want to work with you on.
It's a great question, and I'm thinking of it for the first time. I didn't realize that kids on their way to school and on their way home from school are being, victims or potential victims of crime, and that the law enforcement is not notifying the schools that it's happening at. It needs to be something that the school would query then. I don't know that I can change how law enforcement would interact, but the school should be able to ask. In our case, it would be the county sheriff in my district. I think everything in my district is unincorporated, so we would be the county of San Diego sheriff. And the schools need to be querying their local law enforcement. Hey, on the way to and from school, any issues? Yes or no? And if there are, then we put some school resources toward helping with the safety of these kids as they're on their way to and from school.
That is a wonderful question, and I did think about that also, and I did meet with the sheriff, and I had a discussion with the sheriff about this, and I met with the security detail, military security detail also, to discuss ways to make schools more safer for children, not just when they're coming to school or when they're in school or when they're leaving school. It's very important that more than just the police department, children should not be walking to school by themselves. And you should do everything you can as a parent to do your best you can to have your kids walk into groups instead of walking by themselves. It hurts me when I see 7, 8-year-old kids walking by themselves to school. And some of them aren't just walking 1 or 2 blocks. So what I would suggest is mainly we focus on first adult kids, because high school kids were more concerned about fighting and after school fighting, and we'd want to try to stop. Maybe we could get a lot of the high school kids more involved. Checks, but sponsor some of the adult students to take.
From what I've seen, our school, our principal, and our district seem to have a really great open relationship with the sheriff. So this is that are having some sort of breakdown in the district. We have to figure out where that's occurring and why, and either figure out the people that are supposed to be doing that job, like Megan suggested, or going back to building community, breaking down those barriers. His own children in his community. There's something going on with start.
Yeah, as a former principal, it really, this question lies close to me because I know that there are things that do happen before and after school. And so get home safely. But thinking of Oaks Elementary School, one of the local sheriff, he is our school site council president. And so he feels safe at our school. he wants to come to our school. The principal there, and I know that the board encourages our local sheriffs to come to events, to read to our children. And so that builds that relationship that I think has been broken in some other districts where we know that if in a school, as soon as local law enforcement comes, they take over what's happening in our schools. And so sometimes I think it's the communication. And so being on the board and setting that expectation, right? Letting our local agencies know that if something happens, it is important. Giving the cell phones, ensuring that communication is going so every student can come and get home safely from school is going to be critical. And so I think it's really about building that relationship, knowing that the home to school is safe, knowing that they are welcome on our grounds, knowing that our children should feel safe to see them in the community and say hello. And then knowing that parents have the relationship with the school and the superintendent to make that phone call if something does happen, so we can be aware even before that phone call is made to us from the local sheriffs. So those are some of the things that I think about when you talk about that question. That is a great question.
Absolutely. I heard it said recently that the time to look for friends is not when you need them. Okay, so, as we talked about accessibility, kind of building off this idea of community, quite honestly, I'm not going to put that burden on somebody else. If I have to be the one to go build those relationships, then I will be. If I have to, I realize that there's different roles and different responsibilities, but if I have to be the one to go to the police station and have that meeting with the police officers or with the parent associations or whatever, whoever the stakeholder is in that situation, then I'll go and I'll have that meeting myself before I wait for someone else to do it.
Yeah, I think our first and foremost job as trustees is to make sure students are safe when they're on their way to school, whether they're out, not, whether on the way to school, in school, whatever it is. It's also imperative that school districts are proactive about how we do this. So we can communicate certain things. One, Megan's Map is a public document that highlights where convicted sex offenders live in your community. You can track that. But it is truly about relationships. And I can speak for Lakeside that we do have a positive, very, very positive relationship with our sheriff's department, our law enforcement, and we communicate well. And so when we call, they're there. Our community, we attend those. Our district goes and hears the issues at the about being proactive. It's our job to help keep kids safe.
Other questions? Yes, right. And then we'll go back.
I'm guessing no one out here heard it. Yeah?
A little bit.
Sorry, I'm just sweet here.
Can you come up? I don't know.
Come on.
I was saying that I was hoping that some of the Grossman High School district would be good for this. But
Hold the microphone to your mouth.
after a personal experience and sitting there listening to all of you today, this is the first time I've ever attended anything like this. But I want to know as a parent, will you be willing to investigate administration who negatively impact students? As a person?
So it's very key that, I can't when there's a complaint like that, if you don't take it, and so I would want to make sure as a board member that
say process for, a very rigorous process to be able to
I first want to apologize for whatever happened, because if you're here asking that question, you must have some. Apologize, because when people, hopefully a future board member, there needs to be systems and structures, as we've said, in place to fully investigate situations that negatively impact kids. And so much of what I've said tonight, every decision I make is for children, and that would situation that negatively impacted a student in my district.
The reason I'm here tonight is because the corruption that has occurred over the last couple of years has really prompted me to start speaking out and get involved in something like this. And that's what I'm here to do, is to end any corruption, knee-jerk reactions, illogical thinking that I can, and try to bring people back together. So I would absolutely stand up for that, investigate that. I just don't know what the procedure is yet, because I've never been involved with that directly.
First, I'd love to punch him in the face for hurting the child. But I know I won't be able to do that. But what I will do is I will go after this individual, and I will bring charges against him, and I will also put him under citizen's arrest, that he never does something like this again. And if I have to put a red dot on somebody to prove that they have done wrong in our community, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to let anyone get away with it. And it may not even be in my district, but it's still my county. And I'm going to do everything I can to protect their children and everybody else's children. Doesn't matter what grade they're in.
It's disturbing to hear that this administrator was promoted rather than fired. My wife and I have personal experience at Las Coaches Creek with teachers who trampled all over their rights over these past few months. One of them has already left the district, and I took it upon myself to dive in and figure out what is the process for getting, egregious violators of students' rights removed from the school. One is gone, and another one has 3 complaints and will soon be gone from that school. So two of my son's teachers personally. So yes, I've personally engaged in making sure that teachers, administrators who violate students' rights will leave. Matter of fact, at the board meeting last night, our superintendent, and I was surprised he said this, but he said that during COVID, we realized that a lot of teachers were breaking the law, but it was actually going on before COVID. So it's pretty eye-opening to hear that from, so.
I too want to say thank you for bringing that question up. I know your personal story, so I really appreciate that. We know there's a lot of issues going on right now in East County on the Magnolia, in that area on that border between Oklahoma and Santee, so that's very concerning to me. I think the problem is that I don't even have kids in Grossmont Union High School District yet, and I have some of those board members and past board members' cell phone numbers. And why don't you as a parent have access to them? That's concerning to me. And so I would want to, I think that goes back to the transparency issue we were talking about earlier, that those board members need to make themselves transparent when they don't know these issues. Truly, I've learned as a parent, unless you go and call them and harass them, unfortunately, to let them know what's going on. They have their 30,000-foot view, and they really need the nitty-gritty, day-to-day view of what's going on, because they just don't know, unfortunately.
A lot of incumbent elected officials, and we're not talking school, we're talking city councils, wherever it is, get very used to hang that hat on their understanding of the protocol and the system. I'm not every issue, I'm not something maybe like this, but they get very used to, right through the regular process being that if you're on a city council, you only have one employee, and that's the city manager. The city manager, hires everyone everyone else, and therefore you are not directing any staff related to the manager. For a school board, that's the superintendent, right? And no employees under that are ever dealt with by the school board. They get when it comes to really serious issues to the city manager, the superintendent saying take care of it. And you're not getting something else. We have you get elected. And you'll hire consultants, obviously, things like that. But let's see. An egregious, terrible issue, that's what's going to be very demanding and want to be, and not just oh well, no, we've only got one employee, but the rest of them aren't employed. Yeah, so, okay, question. Can you speak up, or should I?
I'm pretty loud. I actually came to support Anthony. His children go to my daughter, and I got involved after seeing his passion for his kids' rights. I hear a lot of if I have to. I want to hear a lot of I want to. As a parent, I'll just tell you, we're very conservative. We believe in the Second Amendment. We're Christian, and as being conservative in that side of it, I feel like my rights are disappearing, and the right to choose my family to grow up that way is being disappeared as well. And he was talking about the social emotional learning. When it's put out in the parent square to parents, it's positive discipline. What does that entail? He's looked into it. I want more transparency, and it's not a I have to, it's I want to. Because like you said, you can get really complacent and put your hat on a hook and show up to a job every day, and it's the same rigmarole. But these are our kids. A lot of what I see in the middle schools is a lack of discipline. I don't want some kid to write an emotional letter to my kid after they bullied and threatened her life. I want that kid suspended. I want discipline. The problem that we're having with these kids nowadays is there's a lack of discipline, there's a lack of respect, and we're more worried about their feelings instead about their well-being. So how are you going to make a difference to raise kids that have respect, responsibility, and determination? Why do all kids have to get one grade? There should be honors. There should be competition. It's good for kids. It makes them strive. It gives them drive to go to college. So my question is, what is your passion as a parent that's going to make you fight for us and for our children and not be complacent?
Since I'm I'll just say 24. But so I'm not a parent, but I do think it hits on something really important, which is that we do not get to take that authority entirely away from you. And so it really is for me, especially not being a parent myself, working with the parents and increasing parental authority in the sphere of the school itself. Because there are a lot of issues that come up that actually shouldn't be the school's job at all. It should, there should be that cooperation with the parents entirely. So.
So I think for me, my voter record pretty much demonstrates my commitment to our kids, and I have no qualms about that. So that's my answer to it. I'm going to keep fighting for our kids. By the way, I want to, and I have. By the way, I've been surrounded by a lot of leaders who haven't wanted to, and have stood and fought. So I think it's important that I can say that, but I know there are people on this panel, mostly folks here are fighters and they want to fight back. That's why they're here. That's why they're working with you. That's why they nod their heads at board meetings and they're all speaking. So I think it's important that folks up here are fighters. I think all of us are. I want to keep fighting for our kids.
This question
Here I am because I have a son, or two sons at LCC, and one son is really having a challenging time. And as a board member, I always remember I have to look into the eyes of my children and the children that I would serve. And I want their trust to know that I'm doing everything that I can. And what I say I'm going to do, I do it. And that includes, on the board to have the opportunity to look at safety plans and all of the plans and the parent information that goes out more on a large scale to make sure that students are safe and continue to be safe and that discipline continues in schools, right? As a former principal, I'm not on the board yet, but as a former principal, I had a handful of suspensions. I was very closely working with our local government, such as our sheriffs or the Children's Police Department, because I did not allow students in my school to be bullied and discriminated to happen. And so continuing with that and making sure that students do learn how to say that they're sorry, because that is an important piece, but not allow them to hold on to that and not understand what is right and what is wrong, and when you disrespect others, it's not okay. So I appreciate you bringing this question, and as a mom, like I said, it hurts. And also to know that as a parent, all of us who are parents, we have to defend and protect our children, because if we don't, nobody else is going to. And so using that same lens as on the board.
Great. As a parent and as a teacher, I tell my own children and I tell my students all of the time that every action has a consequence. It's either a good consequence, like you do your homework and you get an A, or it's a bad consequence. And on Monday, I had to sit in on a meeting. It was a really hard meeting. It's the first one I've ever done like this, where we essentially removed a student from the school, my own student, that we couldn't get through to because it just wasn't the right fit for him. So the best thing for this student was to not go to our school. And his action of not doing things had a consequence. And I think that's important to teach children. I also think it's important that we raise caring kids, and I do think it's important that we don't treat every single problem with a one-size-fits-all consequence. I think different families have different needs, different students have different needs, and but I think first and foremost, every consequence has either a good, a positive, or every action has a positive or a negative consequence. And if we let that kind of rule how we think about things, it can be really beneficial for our kids.
With out of control students, the best thing to do is discipline back again and punish them for the mistakes that they made. If you are mistreating people and you are violating other children's rights, especially violating them, this should be gone immediately. Second chances are not always good chances. Second chances give someone an opportunity to do the same thing over again. And if we need to move students around to different schools, we need to punish them for the bad things they've done. Just remember one thing: whose schools? They are parent schools. Parent schools.
The idea that receiving a letter from someone who's bullying you and threatening your life, receiving an emotional letter from them would be a remedy, just seems absurd to me. We have two parents from LCC up here, and my own son has been involved with issues at that school. Where he had a rock thrown at him. This happened yesterday, and I heard that the vice principal is going to do a mediation with both students. And so I called my wife and said, you know what? I called the school. I said, we're just going to go ahead and pick them up. We heard at the end of the day that they got 2 witness statements signed by 2 other students, and they got this student to sign a witness statement, absolving my son of the situation. But I told my wife, I was like, he's not going to be in some kangaroo court or mediation with that particular individual. As a board member, how I think that how can we affect the policy that's written with regard to discipline? And if someone's threatening someone's life, a student's threatening another student's life, it calls for something more serious than an emotional letter written to a student. Well, my son returned aggression, so it was kind of turned into a mutual situation there.
Yeah.
It's
Good point.
you gotta have things certain people who got reasons. Like, if my daughter got me in the head with the rock, I just call Caroline, here is the duty tribute, and I put that principal on her toes and let her know that no one is ever gonna throw a rock at my kid's head. Because I just don't stand for it, and to have kids have a kangaroo court and get, your kid got hit in the head with a rock, he should be suspended. That's how I feel.
Makes an excellent point. Thank you.
And then the question was, what passion do you bring? You got a short list here. Good. Thanks.
Thanks, Mary.
I'm gonna wear my event hat for the answer of this question, as someone who helped put on this event, and let you know that all incumbents of every single school board in East County was invited to this today. And you see one that's here. One other, sorry, to be fair, trustee Bartow could not make it, she's out of town. So that to me is very concerning that we have current board members representing us that could have come and talked to the constituents and the voters and heard what's, you know, and what some of the people who might be challenging some of their seats are talking about. You know, prior engagements, I think it's important to know that. Also, as an event planner, speak to every single person on this panel and let you know that they're all extremely passionate about what you're doing. Because I know.
Okay, can I see someone else with a hand back here? Yeah. Because we're gonna have to. Can you ask them, but they can answer in 10 seconds? Because I want to do lightning, because we want to get to Corbin, we got the legislative stuff.
Okay, let's end questions then. Why don't we end questions then?
Well,
Does anybody have any other questions? My question's fine. I can hold my question.
is it something they can answer yes or no?
Where do you stand on transgender in the bathroom and the washroom with your kids?
It's not a yes or no.
Yeah, it's a big question. I told you I can hold my question. Yes, no? You gonna let boys in the bathroom with water?
Is that P, street and PB, Noyes? No, it's no yes.
I think each individual situation will be looked at, but safety is extremely important, and it's a case-by-case basis with that particular population.
It's a hard one. It's hard.
It's a hard one not to be sexist protecting little girls is the primary focus here. There was a situation that happened in Loudoun County, Virginia. It was a national story that it happened twice. So a girl was raped by a boy who went to the girl's bathroom, and then he was shuffled off to another school and was kind of brushed under the rug. Then another girl was raped, and that's the sort of, you open that door to that, and that could be the potential consequence. So I haven't seen a proposal to, here individual bathrooms. You go look on the sign and it has, all gender bathrooms, but these are individual private bathrooms. I mean, if it's going to be some national funded thing where they want to give private bathrooms for school children, then fine. But if we're talking about, hey, if a boy wants to go in the girl's bathroom, I'm not for it at all. I agree.
Biological males should use the male restroom, and biological females should use the female restroom. If you can make a halibut, yes. If you can make a halibut, a salmon, then we can talk. But if you can't make a salmon, a halibut, then it's still a biological male, biological female. The difference is you can change your look, still a male, you're still a female. We need to come up with a solution. This is always going to be an argument if we need to have one restroom in the school, across the schools that male and females can use, and that's the case. But there's no reason for males to be in the restroom with females. And with a lot of cases that are going on in the child rape and incidents that are happening across the country, it needs to come to a stop now.
I think that there's all sorts of different people in our world, and so when we're dealing with a school, we need to serve the biggest group of people, and so
generally speaking, for bathrooms, I keep them separate, men and women, girls and boys bathrooms. I think that serves the most students that we have. But I would have to think about that more on a case by case basis. I don't really know. I haven't thought about that, but that's my thoughts for now.
I agree with the individual sitting to the right of me, and I know that I bring a lot of my prior history with me, but I did have a student at a former school who was a young man, who was born a young man and wanted to use a female restroom, and I did not allow it. It's not safe. So we did allow him to use the restroom in the nurse's office, and that provided him a safe place to use the restroom. It kept everybody else in the school safe. And so that's kind of the, case by case basis, ensuring the safety of all children.
Yes, I'm gonna ditto that. Also, I will say I was only in high school up to 2015, and there you go. So in case you're wondering, do the math a little bit. I was in high school up to 2015, and this was not an issue that we were facing back then. So this is really coming down fast. And secondly, back to kind of the Department of Education question. This maybe isn't so much for K through 8, but when you see the way that the federal government can push these kinds of programs down on universities and schools, then that kind of helps you to understand that issue too. That does come from the federal government. And
Elimination of bathrooms.
especially at universities.
No.
Thank you, Matt.
I mean, there's a lot of detail we can go into, but the fact is, no.
Sorry? As a parent, I was the loud parent, mad all the time at the school board. I mean, I was there from the beginning. Andrew, you were on my board. You took me to coffee. We talked all the time. I had your cell phone number. I texted you every other day. You were very transparent. But there's a relationship that was broken that I don't know. I'm leaving the state. My son doesn't want to go to school in California anymore. Like, he literally asked us to leave the state. He was treated so badly. How are you going to, coming in as new people, how are you going to mend those relationships? Because they're so broken. So broken. It's not a 15-second answer, but it was, as a parent, you want to cry. But watching my son be brave and tell me he didn't want me to pick him up from school, and he hopped the fence and left the school. He was so, it was, my kid is a good kid, and he didn't want to wear his mask, and he had a mask man exemption, and they just treated him so badly, and he knew they treated him badly, and he called me on his cell phone, and he was cussing, and he said, "Pick me the F up," and I'm like, "What is wrong?" I'm watching the administration eat cookie crumble on the same plate with no masks on in the office, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." I mean, my kid's been kept in his room for 4 days, and no instruction. He has an IEP. No interaction with anybody. And I pleaded to the board, and the relationship is just gone. And I felt like I had a good one with some people, and I just want to know how. And maybe there is no answer, but just so you guys know, it's going to be really hard to get that relationship back because you're the enemy now. You're on that board and you're the enemy now. And I was running for the school board, and I had to ask myself, how can I sit on this board of people that I despise at this moment? And that's, it's a hard question, but it's definitely something that you have to remember and think about, because those relationships are going to have to be mended somehow. I mean, parents are going to be here no matter what. We're not going anywhere. We might leave the state, but I'll be at the other school too. But, yeah. Good idea.
Great. Okay, Corbin. You've been waiting patiently. This is he's running for. He's running for a state assembly in the 79th Assembly District. That is that's a new. He's running in a newer district. Well, it's a Kilo. It's a redistricting district. Kilo Weber is the incumbent, and you're running there. So tell us a little bit.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corbin Sable, running for State Assembly 79th District against Tequila Weber. Before I begin, I wanted to piggyback a little bit about what we're always talking about transgenderism in the bathroom. In order to solve that problem, we have to understand the root of the problem. what is the root of the problem? That is an intentional undoing of our language. An intentional undoing of our language to confuse us and to cause as much chaos and destruction so they can come in and reap the benefits of that destruction. So I want to make sure we all understand what we're up against. We are up against a complete dismantling of everything that we hold dear and true in our heart, that we love. That's what we're up against. This is a war. Okay, we need to adopt a war-like mentality because that's how we're going to come out on top of this. And it's up to all of us to be engaged to the best of our ability. To all of us as candidates and involved citizens, paying attention to bills. Raise your hand if you've called your elected representatives and protested against a bill recently, within the past month or so. Raise your hand if you haven't yet, if you've never called your elected representatives. Can you pledge that that's going to change? Please? That's going to change? Calling and saying, hey, I oppose EB 1993. My opponent, Akilah Weber, the reason why she's asking to have her name removed from the bills because the people called and said, I oppose this. That's why. That's why Assembly Member Wicks, Bumpy Wicks, pulled it and said, I'm not going to advance it. It's because we took action. We said no. That's why. Okay, it's not because of maybe midterm elections. It's because we spoke up. And we understand what it means to be a citizen, an active participant in our government. One famous quote from Edmund Burke, the only thing necessary for the trample of eagles for good people to do nothing. That quote resonated through my head a while ago, and I made a decision that I was going to stop doing nothing and I was going to start doing something. So we all understand that quote, and I wanted to thank every single one of you for being here, and especially thank you, Megan and Jennifer, for hosting this event and giving us an opportunity to be here and hear from the candidates and myself. But this is serious. This is a war, okay? And we all need to step up in our own way. So I'm Corbin Sable. You can find me at corbinsable.com. We are up against a lot, and I don't mean to end this event with a downer, right? I'm sorry, but it's kind of necessary to understand what we're up against. AB 1993 is thankfully on hold for now. It's not dead, it's on hold. It could come back. Mandated the COVID vaccine. AB 2098. Okay, what is AB 2098? That's labeling the speech of our healthcare professionals as health misinformation at the discretion of our government, whatever it is they want. How about SB 1464? I think it's SB 1464. I could be getting the numbers mixed up. That's in requiring law enforcement to uphold the orders of the ECPA, California Department of Public Health. This is the future. Seriously, I'm not making this up. Requiring law enforcement to uphold the orders of California Department of Public Health. They are trying to move us into a future that nobody wants. That nobody wants. No Republican voter, no Democratic voter, no independent voter, no libertarian voter. This is not about the left and the right. No American wants, correct. This is not about the left and right divide that we have been sold for generations. We have to get past that. This is about power versus freedom, control versus liberty. Okay? So we understand that. I just wanted to resonate on that. And thank you for showing up and doing everything you're doing. Don't be shy when we, the candidates, ask you for money. Seriously, do not be shy. This is not the time to be shy. All right? Open up those pocketbooks and donate, please. I'm asking you. I'll get on my knees if I have to.
You need $2,000
Now. Is that a good answer? We all need money, we all need your support. Okay? Not everybody's going to take action in their own way. I'm taking action as a candidate, we're all taking action as a candidate. Incumbents, right? Did I get that correctly? No. Yes. We're seeking re-election. But if you're not running for office, donate. Volunteer. Volunteer with one of these candidates. Volunteer with myself. Donate to one of these people. Donate to myself. Door knock. Phone call. Something. Anything. Don't leave here and do nothing and say, thank you guys for running. I'm going to go home and go on my merry way. We have 7 months in our American way of life. I'll leave it at that.
So you said something at the Assembly District for that is La Mesa, Lemon Grove, Spring Valley, what else? Whatever.
Yeah, so we're just north of the 79th district right now. So it starts in the southern part of El Cajon, then it goes down to the La Mesa, Lemon Grove, Spring Valley area, to that line, just shoot it west to the 805. That's about it.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. Thanks, man. All right, Tracy, you're going to get up, and Randy, Assemblyman Randy Ropel's office has provided a list of 10 of these bills that we are concerned about, bills that we are excited about. These are the worst bills in the history of this cycle. What? Ever. Actually, every year it gets worse and worse. So it could be the 10 worst bills in the history of mankind.
Okay, just wanted to go over some of these bills real quickly with everybody. I know that we're running short on time. This is updated as of 4:30 today. SB 871. This bill mandates the COVID-19 vaccine for all children or all child care in schools. This has been referred to the Senate Health and Senate Education Committees. There is no hearing date set for this bill.
And what's the bill number?
SB 871. Moving on to SB 866. This eliminates parental consent for kids ages 12 to 17 to get the COVID-19 vaccine. This bill has been referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and no hearing date has been set for this one. That's SB 866. SB 1479 will require schools to continue COVID-19 testing and create new testing plans. This has been referred to Senate Health and Senate Education Committees. I don't know what this means, but it says it's on call. Preliminary vote was 7-2. It passed the Senate Health Committee today.
What's that one do?
SB 1479 will require schools to continue COVID-19 testing and create new testing plans. SB 1018 would require online platforms to disclose how health information is distributed to users. This has been referred to government, organization, and judiciary committees, and no hearing date has been set yet. SB 1464 would require police to enforce lockdowns and mass mandates. I kind of touched on this earlier. This has been referred to Senate Health and Senate Public Safety Committees. This one I also don't understand clearly. Scheduled for hearing on March 30th. That's today. It says not on the agenda.
It was scheduled for today, but it's not dead.
Hold or on hold.
Just not heard.
They told it from today, so it'll be.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. AB 1993. This was the big one that we were all interested in. Require employers to mandate COVID-19 vaccine for employees and independent contractors. We now know that the author of that is holding the bill. AB 1797 would provide greater access and less privacy for the California Immunization Record Database. This has been referred to the Health Committee. Hearing date is April 19th. That's AB 1797. Hearing date is April 19th. And lastly, AB 2098 would subject doctors to disciplinary conduct for sharing the COVID-19 quote-unquote misinformation. This has been referred to Assembly Business and Professions Committee. The hearing date for that is on April 19th. Again, that's AB 2098. That's what we have so far from Randy Gopal's office.
When's it coming about ending on a white marathon?
I'll make it up. Actually, if you wanted to say something really fast, and then I have something, and then we'll be done.
not everybody knows, most of the people up here know, but I am your elected representative to the Central Committee of the Republican Party of San Diego County. And I hear from candidates all the time right now, especially right now. Says, I can't win without the Republican endorsement. And all my competitors are incumbent Republicans. I don't think that's right. So Monday, the executive meeting, I'll be coming out with a discussion about not automatically endorsing incumbent Republicans. Look around. How many incumbents do we have here tonight? One. How many incumbent school board members do I normally have at my caucus meetings that happen every other month? One. Okay? So the incumbents come around every 4 years and they say, "Yeah, I want your endorsement." But they're not participating in between them. That's not right. How did that incumbent perform for parents' rights, CRP, vaccine mandates, all the tenets that the Republican Party has brought in the doors? How did they perform against it? I want that discussed. So I don't want automatic endorsement for incumbents. And I'm going to make my case, as I'm making it to you here today. What I want to see is those incumbents come in, just like our new candidates, and ask for present themselves and ask for the endorsement. So that's what we want to do, and for these candidates up here. It's very important that we get candidates in there that are standing up for parents' rights.
Thank you. Hold it to your mouth.
That's the light through, right? Anyway, I just want to say thank you. This is the second time. Thank you.
Right, cracking note.
Listen to me. Let's bring up the beer. Peanut butter stout. I said the beer. This is the peanut butter whiskey.
Always giving us advice, make the public all the way down Friday. I don't think I ever called you. Anyway, she totally appreciates you giving her answers, you telling her what to do and how to navigate this whole, this whole thing, because we just want the right thing to happen for kids. That's it. And, if we want parents to run and we want to help them, and we didn't know what we're doing. And you really helped us. And I totally appreciate it. And so, get turned by us.
Thanks everyone, I appreciate that. So obviously there's a lot of issues we did not discuss. We didn't get into things like taxes and school funds and things like that. And Andrew, if you had some time tonight, I'm not going to give it to him now, he would say that, school boards existed before COVID. That's true. Yeah, he would say school boards, just because people are now more focused because of mask mandates and that stuff and all those things, doesn't mean school boards didn't exist before that. So, there's two sides of the same coin. We're getting compassionate people as a result of those things that are getting more involved in that school. But there are other issues that school boards deal with, like school bonds and taxes, and we've got kind of a bunch of them. So, the one I will mention that you might want to think about, and I'm going to ask you a question about, but it's, I'm in Colorado. I will say that I've seen a couple of bonds reach the ballot since I've been living in Vermont for about 12 years now. I think I've seen 3 actually, and 2 of them have been successful. I was always surprised when I would get mail on those that certainly looked like advocation. They didn't say vote for the bond, but they said what the bond would do and all the positive and great things. It almost looked like a campaign piece. And it was almost lost on me until it was pointed out, and I started looking at it a little more closely because I know these are paid for by the Home Valley Union School District. Okay, you cannot campaign on the public funding. Okay, you cannot. Well, I think your Home Valley Union School District's attorney would say that, well, technically, we're not campaigning. It doesn't say vote for measure N. It doesn't say, it just says, if passed, here's what it will provide. Okay? And so you see there's this kind of line there someplace, which I say kind of, in my opinion, possible. The school board members know how I feel about that. Because I brought it up the first time. And so I would, the only thing I can tell you all, if you get elected, and you guys do, I know you're already looking at it, you know, I would encourage you to not just listen to the staff and the bureaucrats and the attorneys when it comes to stuff like that. People get elected, and then they want to be friends with the staff. Of course they do. They want people to like them. Everybody wants people to like them. They didn't elect them. They didn't elect them. And so you've got to be in a position where you can be friendly, but you're not always going to be friendly. And there's a lot of times you're going to disagree. And I'd say push back, especially when you're seeing tax dollars being used in what I would call really questionable circumstances. Push up against that line, or maybe crossing the line when it comes to that rule of not using tax dollars for campaign purposes, and then getting if they pass on their own, you know, legally, okay, I can't have a problem with that. That's a 55% margin. Well, I do have a problem with that. It should be 2. But that's another issue we're not going to get into. Anyway, enough from me. Thank you. Thank you, Megan. I know you're not coordinating tonight, you're a candidate, but you know, put on that other hat sometime, Jennifer, and thank you to everyone else who was involved in this, and I appreciate it, and thank you. Let's give a big round of applause.